There we go. I remembered. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Climate Resilience and Stewardship Subgroup of the Farming for the Future Working Group of Oregon Community Food Systems Network. We're going to, yeah, God, I had to change my brain to be able to say that without stumbling. So there's that. And I'm Andrew. Welcome. Good to see y'all. And today we're going to be hearing from several folks in the network on some climate and ag related bills and policies that they're working on for the 2023 legislative session. I think that's going to be the majority of our time. I think it's going to be good that this is recorded. Folks can listen in and learn from y'all. And let's do a little go around in introductions. And I was thinking of an icebreaker. I was having a hard time thinking of it. And I thought, well, it's cold out. What's our favorite warm drink that's keeping us nourished through this cold, quick winter that we're experiencing here in Oregon? I've been drinking a lot of Tulsi tea, which has been really nice. So, and I'd like to introduce y'all to Tara, who is interning with OCFSN and supporting the Farming for the Future Working Group and helping us take notes. Tara's a University of Oregon grad student researching food systems transformation. Thanks for being here, Tara. And feel free, we'll pass it to Megan, just do some quick introductions.
Megan Kempel, she, her. I'm the Director of Policy Advocacy with Oregon Climate and Ag Network. Oh, and my warm drink, I forgot to prepare for that. Yeah, I just drink tea. I drink tea too. Tea with honey. Amy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Amy Wong, she, her, Oregon Organic Coalition. And Andrew, it's funny, I just had my first Tulsi Sweet Rose of the season. I love that one. Love Tulsi. I will pass it to Heidi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Heidi Nordyke. I'm with OSU Extension, the Small Farms Program in the metro area. And I think tea, yeah. Tea. I've been drinking tea.
Barrett.
Hi, everyone. I'm Barrett Nelson. I'm a postdoc researcher at OSU, working with Extension predominantly. And I just also want to say thank you to everyone because a lot of you on here have already helped me with my project. So I just want to start by saying thank you. That's been really great. But yeah, really excited to be here. This is my first one. And I'm going to be edgy and I'm going to go ahead and say tea during the daytime, but red wine in the evening. There's nothing better than sitting in front of them. I saw everyone's head go. So get in front of the fire, have a glass of red wine, go to bed at 9 o'clock. That's what I like to do in the winter.
Nice. Kaylin.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kaylin Barter. I'm the Oregon Water Policy Program Director with Wild Salmon Center. And I am joining by off-screen today. I'm actually in transit between meetings. I've spoken with several of you, really here just hoping to meet more folks in this space. We, as my title implies, are pretty heavily involved in water issues at the state. And I understand from talking with several of you that climate and water are kind of important to you all. So just really hoping to build some more connective tissue between our groups and look at areas where it makes sense for us to coordinate more. One thing I've shared with a couple of you is like a lot of times in the meetings I'm in, I hear things like, well, I'm the Farm Bureau and I represent the ag perspective. And I always think, like there might be some other perspectives within the ag community. And so when those things come up, I think it would be really good to be able to reach out and be like, how does this land for you all? Is this what your members and your community is experiencing? And if not, how can we bring those perspectives into those conversations? And I have talked way too much because I'm really just here in a listening mode today, and look forward to the conversation. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Kaylin. Alex.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alex. My pronouns are she, her. and I work with the Working Lands program associated with the Coast Fork Willamette Watershed Council in Cottage Grove. And my position is just to support the launch of our program come January, and just meet as many people as possible, try to get as many resources and connections from these groups. So I'm happy to be here and happy to learn from you all. And yeah, just try to bolster our program as much as possible and then make it intentional and just provide some support for you all and for our community. Thanks for having me.
And welcome, Greg. We're just doing introductions.
Right. Hello. I heard somebody say something about red wine earlier. Is there an icebreaker that I didn't hear about?
Oh yeah, I said warm drink for
Oh.
cold winter time, and
Okay.
red wine is warm in its own right. Yeah.
Yes. I could go for that too. Greg Holmes, he, him pronouns. I am the Working Lands Program Director for 1000 Friends of Oregon, based in Grants Pass, but work statewide. That's probably all I need to say at this point.
Great. Nice. Thanks for being here, y'all. Just a couple things up top here, some updates on the working group OCFSN and just other things I wanted to highlight for folks interested in this topic. So the Farming for the Future working group is holding a in-person gathering in Salem, February 2nd and 3rd. Save that on your calendar. To be decided on location and agenda, these things. We're putting that all together right now. So got a good group of folks who are helping with that. And if you have any ideas of places to visit, things to do in Salem for farm tours, that type of thing, send them my way. You can send me an email. For folks who are interested in how this working group is structured, there's links in the notes doc for folks. I put together a structured document so folks can get a sense of what we're working on in the broader working group, from beginning farmer and rancher support, farm and land viability, programming, land access, and all sorts of different things. OCFSN is in leadership team recruitment currently. So we're looking for folks to nominate and put their hat in the ring for supporting the organization as far as executive function. That the leadership team provides oversight for staff, helps guide the direction of the organization and the network. And it's a really important role. There's lots of really big things coming up for the network and for this work. So strong leadership is super important. We got Greg is a leadership team member who's terming out this year, and looking for folks to help keep us going in a good direction. Yeah, we also have a document on the website. If you have events or programming, job postings, these types of things, share. You can use this spreadsheet that's linked in the notes to share that information, and we'll get it into the newsletter and on the website for OCFSN to help broaden your reach. Yeah, I had a question about there's a lot of talk about small farms conference this year, and there's talk about helping support cooperative farming enterprise panel. There's also several different workshops being proposed for land access. I was just curious if there's anything on the books or being planned for climate and ag for the small farms conference. The date is February 18th.
Yeah, I can address that. I know there's a group of farmers in Southern Oregon that had a SARE grant, and they're working with Maud Powell, looking at like irrigation efficiency, and they're going to share. They all had like tensiometers, and were using looking at water levels to schedule irrigation. So I know there's going to be a talk on that for sure.
Cool.
And then I can check with Maud on like the draft list again, but a lot of times it's suggested that like climate is integrated with every talk. That it's like a part of, yeah, it's part of everything, whether it's a production talk or a marketing talk. But I know for sure there's one on like some climate resilience practices in Southern Oregon.
Good. Yeah, Megan.
I don't think there's like a formal call for proposals usually for our workshop proposals that goes out. At least we didn't get one. And I'm wondering, Heidi, if you can share a little bit about the process and if we just kind of weasel our way in and who we check in with if we have an idea.
Yeah, so you can check with like Gary and Lauren, or not Gary and Lauren, Gary and Maud. They're helping to put the program together this year. And I think it's probably going to be finalized in the next couple of weeks. So like by December 1st to like have everything in line. So a lot of times the process is that, yeah, like the small farm team kind of gets together and is like, oh, we've heard from these people, they'd like to do a workshop, or there's certain ones there. So yeah, you can reach out. I'd reach out to like Maud. Do you know Maud? Yeah.
Yeah.
From the
Well,
planning.
Maud would have thought of us though. Yeah, if she had something she wanted us to do. So.
Yeah, so that's sort of the structure. And there also will be, I'm pretty sure, like opportunities for exhibitor tables, where conversations can happen with different organizations.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for that update. I think it's the first back in person small farm conference after a couple of years. Very well attended. Great. There's been a bunch of emails in my inbox today from the USDA requesting public input on implementation for Inflation Reduction Act funding. There's a link in the notes. I'm going to share that out to the broader list, but thought that would be informative for folks here. There's a lot of NRCS funding coming through and making sure that it meets the needs of producers and what you all are working on. So there's some public input happening there. And then I wanted to highlight what ORCAN's most recent October Train the Trainers. And there's a link to all your materials that you put together. Y'all did a really good training. I got a lot out of it. I know a lot of people did. So folks can check out all those recordings and pass the meeting materials from that. One last thing that's not on here. Heidi, maybe you can speak to this, or I can share what I know very briefly. OSU was awarded a USDA Beginning Farm and Rancher Development Program grant this year. And there's a lot of elements to that, but there is a climate piece that Tegan brought up today at another meeting regarding some materials you all are developing.
Yes, we're going to be creating four like probably four standalone modules looking at climate resiliency for ag producers. And we just kind of had a brainstorming this morning, kind of looking at the first one will be sort of a assessment, like where are you now, the site that you have on your farm, and then prevention, like what steps can you do for prevention, and then so that's like what can you do now, and then what can you do in the future, adaptation, and then like what do we call it, when the shit hits the fan, like it's like, okay, boom, an ice storm just happened, a wildfire's coming, like what are some of those immediate ones? So I think we're going to meet again in December, and as we get a clearer idea of what's going to happen, we're definitely going to be reaching out to partners to get input on like, yeah, what are the priorities that you're hearing from producers on that realm. So that's one part of the grant. And then the other part is some of the learning, teaching farms. We're going to be having demonstrations, like there'll be more work. Lucas Niebert with the Dry Farm program, he's going to be continuing that work moving forward. And then we'll be reaching out to producers and partners to find out like what kind of education and demonstration are the priorities as we develop that. And that grant runs through 2025.
Great. Thanks for that update. All right. So to the meat of the conversation today, we're going to be hearing from Megan and Amy and Brittany when she jumps on about the different bills that they're working on for 2023 legislative session that intersect with climate and ag. And there in the notes, there's a link to a spreadsheet that's the policy matrix for all sorts of different food systems bills and related to the 2023 legislative session. So take it away, Megan.
Can I share my screen? Is that okay? Go ahead. Okay, so let me see if I'm ready to share my screen. Actually, let me get I'm not seeing the things that I want on my screen. I'm seeing the notes, so let's get that over. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share ORCAN's legislative priorities, which are all, because of our mission and focus, are all at the intersection of climate and agriculture. The first one is first priority is funding the Department of Ag's, let me make this a little bigger, soil health specialist position, which was established that he just came on in January, so he's just been here for less than a year, and want to make sure that that position is permanent and established. So just maintaining funding, but making that, if it's funded, that would be a permanent position. And the connection there is just the strong connection both with resilience for the way that soil health practices can promote resilience on Oregon's farms and ranches, and also their potential to sequester carbon, mitigate greenhouse gases in other ways as well. And the second is related, and it's basically a huge expansion of the soil health specialist position into creating a soil health initiative to advance soil health on Oregon's farms and ranches. And I think I'll go ahead and just dive into, I've got some slides on that, so I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to make sure that you can see my slides, and I'm going to switcheroo. And this is a summary of our soil health bill. Is that showing up all right?
I'm not seeing it.
Oh, okay, let's try that again. Let's try that one. How about that?
There you
No?
go. Yep.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay. And is it showing up like a regular presentation? Okay, super. So I'm just quickly cover why a soil health bill, what our approach is, what's in the bill, and how to engage, but most importantly, what's in the bill. So we know that healthy soils are a foundation for climate resilience for farmers. We know that farmers and ranchers need support and resources. We know that farm service providers, technical assistance providers, educators need more resources to provide that support. And we know that legislation can provide significant resources. Our approach to this Healthy Soils Initiative bill is that we've done extensive listening. So many of you are probably familiar with ORCAN's Lay of the Land Levers for Change report, which tells us what the gaps and needs are across the state for advancing climate resilience, and what kinds of policies are needed as well. And so our extensive listening to folks working at the intersection of climate and agriculture over a year-long period gave us a bunch of policy recommendations. We did a bunch of other policy-specific listening sessions and have been having, of course, ongoing conversations. And we have basically compiled these recommendations into a bill, and we're ready to advance policy We are using models from policies from all over the country. We're part of a national network of folks working on healthy soils policy. And so we have examples from states all over the country, what's worked well there and what hasn't. And we've taken all of that information to inform development of a bill. And our approach is focusing on soil health, not actually referring to climate at all in the bill, except for some references to drought resilience. I'll walk through this in a bit, but there is a mention of carbon sequestration, but not climate specifically in the bill, and also a focus on soil health principles rather than specific practices. So we're calling out these principles rather than designating any specific practices. And part of the reason for that is the best practices can change over time, and what we know and understand about practices and their effectiveness and ability to advance soil health can change. So we're proposing a pretty comprehensive policy. We are looking at interagency collaboration between a number of agencies, and in our strategy, this is important for everyone here to know with OCFSN, we are working with Representative Helm, who's a moderate Democrat and really likes to work across parties. And he is basically requiring of us that we are, that I'm working with, engaging with the Farm Bureau and engaging with industry. And this session is recorded, so I'm just going to be cautious about what I say and such. So we are engaging with the, well, I'll share a little bit more about that, but I'm getting feedback from partners within OCFSN. I've requested feedback from many of you and incorporated your comments and suggestions. And I also am getting feedback from the Farm Bureau and the Oregon Dairy Farmers Association, Tillamook Creamery, others. So it's really trying to address any concerns and issues so the bill is successful. What's in the bill? We have whereas statements. Why is the bill important? We are creating a soil health initiative. We are creating an advisory committee, a soil health advisory committee. Again, as I mentioned before, the bill establishes or directs the agencies to collaborate with each other and lays out specific roles for each of the agencies, as well as directs the agencies to create a roadmap for soil health, healthy soils roadmap. And in terms of why this is important and what's in our whereas statements, which can really help provide inspiration to legislators as well as political motivation for advancing the bill, passing the bill. So we know that Oregon's agriculture is a key economic sector, so health practices can increase agriculture's economic resilience and profitability. Healthy soils provide plant and animal health benefits as well as environmental benefits, including carbon sequestration. Healthy soils can make farms and ranches more resilient to drought and extreme weather events. Legislators right now really want to promote resilience over disaster relief, so there's an interest in that, and this addresses that need. We know that voluntary incentives are needed to advance soil health practices, and we know that we need to leverage federal funding that's coming. As I mentioned, the bill creates a soil health initiative, and its purpose is to promote and support farming and ranching systems to improve soil health in Oregon, with two main goals with a bunch of sub goals related to agricultural viability and profitability, as well as environmental function. And there are 5 buckets kind of the strategies for the initiative: financial incentives, outreach and education, technical assistance, resources and research. And the collaborating entities are all government bodies. Department of Ag, Oregon Watershed Enhancement Board, which is the agency that distributes the Oregon Ag Heritage Program grants. The the Soil and Water Conservation Districts, with a potential role for the Oregon Association of Conservation Districts, and then OSU, both Extension and the College of Ag Sciences have responsibilities in the initiative. And it directs all of these agencies to consult and collaborate and coordinate with each other to assess and identify gaps and needs and work to fill those gaps and needs, use available data, and then build their own capacities as well as the capacities of others. And OSU's Institute for Natural Resources would play a coordinating role among the agencies for the initiative, basically coordinating the initiative. Department of Ag has these buckets focused on partnerships and identifying funding as well as marketing. Each of them has a page of activities, so I'm not going to go into that detail. The whole thing is about 12 pages long. OWEB has responsibilities related to grant making, both funding soil health practices and providing TA, technical assistance grants, to soil and water conservation districts. And then the districts have responsibility to apply for those grants as they have interest and capacity to do so, receive the grants and provide technical assistance and outreach and education with real clarity that they're there to work. OSU and the soil and water conservation districts would work in close collaboration in providing technical assistance and outreach and education. And then OSU's College of Ag Sciences also has responsibilities related to research and soil testing. And they have to get together and create a soil health roadmap, plan for strategies and actions within a year, and with input from a soil health advisory committee. And we've laid out who will be on that committee, or not the people, but the types of people. And if you are interested in making sure that you're engaged, I'll be sharing this out with especially the climate sub and OCFSN as appropriate opportunities for engagement. But if you're real interested in making sure that you get any advocacy opportunities, just let me know and I'll make it so that you get that information. I'm also, I think I'll pause there, but I want to just share a little bit about another bill that's related, and that's the Natural and Working Lands bill. Any questions about the Healthy Soils bill? Not seeing any.
Great overview. Yeah, thank you. That was great.
Okay. And then I'll just let me see if I can share this. So just going on. So we want to make sure that one of the responsibilities of the agencies is to provide, we're hoping to carve out $2 million for the Oregon Ag Heritage Programs, has a sub-grant focused on conservation management plans, which can include implementation of conservation management plans, so basically practices. And soil health is a really good fit there. So we're hoping to allocate $2 million through the soil health bill for incentivizing soil health practices through the OAHP. And so part of what we need to make sure is that OAHP is funded. That's a priority for ORCAN anyway, because protecting Oregon's farms and ranches is a form of mitigation, because farms and ranches have the potential to sequester carbon, and if they do not exist, they will not have that potential. And also urban lands have higher greenhouse gas emissions generally than ag lands do, but per acre. And so we want to protect farmlands just for the sake of protecting farmlands, but we also want this program to be healthy and established so that it exists, so that we can also include additional funding for soil health through that program. So we want to do both in the next session, make sure they get their money, and hopefully add a little carve out on top of it. And then some of you have been involved with the Global Warming Commission's Natural and Working Lands proposal to promote carbon sequestration and climate resilience on Oregon's natural and working lands, and ORCAN will be working to advance that bill as well. Our highest priority, just to be real transparent, is the soil health bill, and we will also be working on the natural and working lands bill and to advocate for that. So I'm going to do something a little bit risky. I'm just going to share a framework that is in very draft form. And I can't share the document with you, and I'm hiding comments that are on the site because we're still working on this document. But this is the easiest way for me to share kind of an overview of what's in this Natural and Working Lands bill right now. So the bill, these are the sections, but there's some important pieces inside. So, but I'm going to do this very quickly. Take as long as the last bill. So this provides a bunch of definitions: nature-based climate solutions, climate resilience, frontline communities, natural infrastructure, and natural working lands, with a long definition of natural and working lands. So it defines natural and working lands in statute. And as many of you know, when we are drafting statute, we're not in control of what ends up in the statute. We, as advocates, can suggest language, but someone else is in charge. Our legislative council is in charge of drafting. So we may want any of this and it may not end up in the bill like this, but this is what we're asking for. And there's a coalition of folks working to just right now develop this policy. And once it gets kind of clarified and written up, then we can engage folks in advocating for it. So two of the key pieces that are most important for you to know are that it declares it is the policy of the state to implement strategies to advance nature-based climate solutions to mitigate and adapt to the future impacts of climate change. So that's a big deal to put that in statute. And the other is to invest in research, to direct state agencies to implement natural and working land strategies. And some of us may know that that was in the governor's executive order. A lot of this was in the governor's executive order. And I think the reason this is needed in statute is that depending on our governor, the executive order can be rescinded. So we want to have this in statute, or some of us want to have this in statute. So, and similarly, directs state agencies to prioritize carbon sequestration and mitigation as in all the ways that they can. So this just describes all the possible ways they can and should do that. And the piece that I think is most relevant, or in terms of the doing, is that this establishes a fund. And I think the fund may be relatively large. We don't have a dollar amount yet, but you know, maybe like maybe 10 million, we don't really know, to the agencies to do this work, to advance strategies. So it's this piece to implement strategies to advance nature-based climate solutions. And there's a very brief list right now, working list. This is all super draft form, so none of this is necessarily going to end up in the bill, but this is what we're wanting to provide. So two pieces: incentives to help landowners and land managers adopt practices, and then fund technical assistance. And some of us will notice that this is similar to the Healthy Soils bill. And so there may be some overlap here. This is much broader. Natural and working lands include forests, ag lands, as well as blue carbon, which is estuaries and wetlands. So it's much broader. And that's it for the most relevant pieces. Baseline and metrics, a lot of measuring and monitoring and reporting that would need to happen. And then there's research, workforce development and training. Actually, that's of interest maybe to some of you in terms of beginning farmers and ranchers, and training up the workforce of the next generation, as well as developing jobs in this field, and then a bunch of inventory work to figure out where we are and where we're going. So that is, but that's all just, I don't even know that I think that may have been submitted to Senator Dembro's office, but it's very just a work in progress right now, all that stuff. None of that is really shareable yet. Framework though. That's it for
fantastic. Thank you for going into that detail. I think that's super helpful. Next we have Amy sharing Oregon Organic Coalition's some legislative priorities.
So I didn't realize we were supposed to have PowerPoint, so I can show you one, but I'm happy to just talk through some of our pre-session filed bills. And I can also back up and say the cadence of some of our advocacy might shift, because in the short session this year, we received funding, or we advocated for funding for an economic assessment of Oregon's organic industry. And so that's going to be coming out in March. And so pending the results of that, we may be asking for more things or shifting the low-hanging fruit. And so we pre-session filed 4 bills, and we'll see what happens with the results of the outcome of our economic assessment. But we're excited for that to come out in the spring. So the first thing that we've been working on for the last couple of years in coalition is protecting the Willamette Valley specialty seed vegetable growers from increased canola cultivation. So right now there's a current 500-acre cap on canola production in the Willamette Valley Protected District, and this will sunset on June 30th, 2023. So we are working to maintain at least that base level of protection, and ideally codify it so it's permanent, or remove canola cultivation from the Willamette Valley. So that's definitely one thing that we anticipate potentially being contentious. It's been contentious in the past. We filed versions in both the House and the Senate, and so we'll see what happens there. We also are going to be we're asking for 5 agricultural extension agents. We know that technical assistance is something that's much needed. And so we're asking to expand OSU Center for Small Farms and Community Food Systems' current organic extension program to include 5 more extension agents focused on organic practices. We had gotten 2 extension agents there previously, one in vegetable production and the other on pastures and forages. We've also asked for this in the past, and we're hoping it works out this time around. We're asking for an organic specialist at ODA, and we've worked with ODA to come up with language that would allow that to flow in to their budget potentially. And we're really hoping, so for some of you might know that ODA is actually an organic certifier in Oregon. I mean, TILT is kind of the big one, but ODA does do some, and we've long advocated that ideally that money could better support organic and ag in general if they weren't a certifier, but they maintained that FTE. So we're hoping that potentially this could kind of move around, money could be moved around so that we had an organic specialist that would be working throughout the agency to make sure that organic isn't forgotten. And we're also working on a farmer support bill that rewards and incentivizes farmers employing on-farm resilience building practices. And 2 things that we're pushing is going to be a state match to accompany the federal organic cost share reimbursement, which is already handled by ODA. So Washington either did this previously or is also doing it. And so it's just an easy thing. We're not asking the legislature to create more work for the agency per se. It's already there. We're also going to be asking for transition assistance. We know that there's help with that, and we know that if farmers aren't being aided to transition, they might not bother doing so. That would be another part of this bill, and we're hoping that this then lays the groundwork to be able to ask for additional farmer supports for things like cover crop subsidies, or keeping your land covered and fallow part of the time, which you have to be doing in a lot of organic systems, but you're not compensated for doing so. So we want to be rewarding, incentivizing farmers for doing practices that we know are building resilience on farm. We too will be, advocating for various POPs at ODA and supporting other bills throughout the network as they come up, and are certainly happy to answer deeper questions and dive into these more at any time if anyone is interested in advocating as well. We'd welcome that and look forward. We're just in the planning stages of doing a webinar, probably in February, that we hope to invite certainly we'll share it with the network, but also to try and bring in people who maybe aren't as familiar with the work of this network. And so that's something we're working on in conjunction around some of our bills. So I'll keep you posted on that as well.
Great. Thank you, Amy. Cool stuff. Thanks for being here, Brittany, and for coming in straight off of another meeting.
No problem. My video's having a little bit of a struggle today, so I'm just going to leave it off so everybody can hear me.
Great. Yeah, take it away.
All right. So in addition, FOF is working on raw milk and farm direct, which doesn't necessarily tie into this climate group, but we have a couple other things going on that Andrew wanted me to talk about. So as far as the legislation goes, we're a member of the coalition that Stand Up to Factory Farms, and we are putting forward a all species moratorium. So this is the on the permitting of new and expanding factory farms. So it doesn't touch any of the existing farms that are already in existence. So, I think many of you know, like about 40 years ago, Oregon had about 4,000 dairies, most small and family-owned businesses, and now just over 200 remain. We put in the last long legislative session, we did a mega dairy moratorium, but now we're doing an all species, and it's all tier 2. So I have, let's see, I'm just put it in the chat. This is the largest of all of the farms that you can, hopefully everybody can look at that. So this is the general permit large tier 2. So we've got, 2,500 or more mature dairy cows, 3,500 or more cattle, 8,000 or more swine, 30,000 or more swine over 55 pounds. And then it goes from there, 125,000 or more chickens. Times it's just
I think your internet's cutting out, Brittany. And
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I wonder if Brittany needs to call in. Brittany, we can't hear you.
there is some here. Let's see. That link didn't work for me. Let's see here. I think we can get another.
If hang on, just
Do. Here we go. Okay. Well, as Brittany is working on that, I can give a brief update and then we'll jump back over. We also can open up questions if there was any questions for Amy or Megan. Feel free to chime in. I'm sure folks can reach out to both of you offline and have conversations. Yeah, so just a quick update. There's oh, here we go. Brittany?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you are
Okay,
echoing.
sorry about
So
that.
you have a little echoes. Maybe turn off your speaker for your computer, I think. You there?
Okay, I am here. Yeah, I'm okay. Let's see. I'm just going to. Okay, is it echoing? Are we good?
I think you're good. I think you're good.
Let me go into a different room here. Maybe I'd get away from the computer. But anyway, so we have, do you see the chart in front of you then?
We weren't able
With
to
the
open that
numbers.
link.
No,
Oh my gosh. This meeting is
No.
not good. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
I'll send it to everybody.
Yeah, just if you send it to me,
So
I'll add it to the notes.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Cool.
The moral of the story is that it's the extreme largest tier 2 of all of the animal CAFOs. So we are trying to hit the very, very top. So all of this, I mean, I think everybody knows the benefits and drawbacks of those large mega dairies or chicken factories and the large factory farms. So so we're in a coalition with Stand Up Factory Farms, and we're going to be putting that through in the legislative session. So hopefully we can make some progress. We have some folks that are really signing on, and we have a lot of backing right now. So we're really excited about the potential for the passing that in the 2023 session. And then on another note, you wanted me to mention the climate resilience, which, you know, actually Megan could probably talk about this too. I don't know if it's easier to have her talk about it since my phone is kind of acting weird. Megan, do you want to?
happy to do
Give
that.
the
Yeah,
update?
and then maybe you could give the update, kind of the most current update, which I think I have, but you can chime in.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay. So as all of you are probably aware, wait, some of you may not be aware, OCFSN advocated for and successfully got funding for a alternative fund, natural disaster relief funding for farmers and ranchers, and distributed $1.5 million to small farms and ranches across the state. Really went very well, and Brittany managed that whole effort in terms of administering the grant program. And we're done with that. And looking ahead, we were trying to think about whether we would need, that was money for 2021 losses. And if y'all can remember 2021, that was a really bad year for fires and heat and drought and all on top of each other. It was a terrible year, and we needed that disaster relief. We weren't sure what this year would look like, and this year wasn't so bad. There was definitely some need, but Brittany was hearing from farmers and ranchers that were applying for that fund that they were very interested in resilience support for making their farms and ranches more resilient. And of course, no farm wants to be in a situation where their crops fail and they have to ask the state for money. They want their crops to be healthy and strong and have enough water. And similarly, our legislators would much prefer, of course, to give, I mean, I'm just assuming, farmers and ranchers funding for resilience, so making their farms more resilient to climate related extreme weather events, then they would have crops fail and have to dole out money for relief. And so we had a conversation with Representative Marsh, who's in Southern Oregon in the Rogue Valley. She was our lead kind of champion for the disaster relief funds, and let her know that there was a lot of interest. Yes, we would maybe be interested in some relief funding, especially if the big Department of Ag program went out again to larger farms. We wanted to make sure there was funding for smaller farms available, or others who weren't able to access that funding. But most importantly, we're hearing more and more that it was important that we fund resilience. And so you've heard some other, these other policies that will help support resilience. So Health Bill and Oregon Organic Coalition's grants for climate resilience, but there are pieces of resilience that aren't directly related to the soil, and they are adaptation, for example. And some of the examples that Brittany has shared with me, and she could chime in and share more, would be things like shade cloth. So soil health can make plants more resilient to drought and heat and such. Plants are healthier, they can weather that better, and healthy soil can hold more water. But there are also infrastructure needs like shade cloth, fans. Brittany, you want to chime in with some other examples of infrastructure type needs?
Yeah, we've been talking about irrigation, like drip irrigation or more efficient and efficient irrigation. We've even been talking about potentially this new concept of drought resistant pasture renovation. So I know like the OPN has been discussing this and kind of coming up with forage plans, and obviously it would be kind of up to the committee of whoever's leading this on what is allowed and what's not allowed, but it is pretty much just anything that will prevent some kind of major drought issue in the future. So we don't have a full list at this point, but hopefully when this passes, if it does, we'll be able to get a nice exhaustive list. And did you talk about the prioritizing? In the last, we're going to prioritize the same group of farmers that we did in the disaster relief grant, which is the small farms that are 350,000 gross sales or less, the BIPOC and underserved farmers in our networks. So we'll be targeting the same kind of farmer audience that we did in the disaster relief.
Yeah, I haven't even really gotten to that part of what we've proposed, what we're proposing. So we have put in a request in a couple of different ways to a couple of different legislators for grants for climate resilience for farmers. So I'll just read you the language, and I can just pop this into the notes too, Tara, for you. So you've got it. So we're interested in seeing a focus on drought and heat resilience. Hope that programs would be established to provide basically grants for practices and infrastructure such as misters, shade cloths, fans, to help farmers become more resilient. And OCFSN is interested in administering that program and is really well positioned, as Brittany was saying, to make sure that those grants get to small beginning BIPOC farmers and ranchers. And the request right now is 2.5 million, which could provide 400 grants, 200 per year. And the grants would be small, $5,000 maybe. And would not be probably specified in the statute. It's just that, or I don't think it'll even be a bill, a standalone bill. I think but just to say that was just the math that we were doing, which was if we had $2.5 million, we could give out 400 grants of $5,000 each to small farms and ranches across the state. And so that request has gone to Rep. Marsh. It's also gone to Representative Helm and Rep. Owens, and they are the Republican and Democratic chairs of the House Ag Committee, and they're working on a drought package. And so they've given us the word that they're going to do their best to incorporate that little grant program into the drought package. And we don't know whether that'll be successful or not, but it's not going to be a standalone bill probably. And Brittany, do you have anything to add to the status there? The update?
I think, the only thing that I did, it sounds like they want to push it through in the first 30 days of the session. So hopefully, if all goes right, we would potentially be able to still get these funds, at least get the application process going still at the end of 2023, I would be hoping.
I can clarify that, Brittany. Even if they're just trying to get it, I think, through committee early on in session, it doesn't, I don't believe that the timing of the movement of the bill has any bearing on its implementation or adoption. So I don't think anything can happen until after the session ends.
Yeah, so it'll be hopefully fall, winter of 2023, 2024. So this is a kind of long-term vision of these grants.
All right, great. Thank you for that update. Oh, and then you got that link in there. Thanks, Brittany. Any questions for the CAFOs? Any questions on the disaster resilience grants, drought package? Anything in there for folks?
I have a quick question. The disaster, I might have just missed this. I was trying to listen, but on the disaster resilience package, is it specifically drought heat related, or is it kind of all encompassing?
To my knowledge, the whole package is specific drought heat related.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. I don't know if this is helpful. I don't want to take up too much time, but I have been getting a lot of feedback from people I'm working with about this year. It wasn't the heat that was problematic, but it was the unusually wet, cold, late spring, delayed a lot of plantings, which really impacted people's bottom lines. And then the other thing that's been coming up that's interesting is actually just the smoke. Made it really, really hard for people to work and get their harvesting done, and also impacted attendance at the markets. And so the smoke is more drought heat related, but that's why I ask, is that I am getting feedback from people that, yeah, this year wasn't unusually hot, but it was actually difficult in different ways. So that's why I ask.
Yeah, I would imagine that the central and southern and eastern Oregon farmers are going to be a little bit more affected, or be able to apply for this easier than the Willamette Valley farmers, as far as I know, depending on the language.
So we won't have any, Brittany, that would be something to pass on up to Alice if you could, because the language that we may have sent in, I may have said drought and heat, and it's important that although the drought package is drought, so who knows?
Yeah, the whole package
But
is
it's
drought,
important
so
probably for those legislators to just hear that.
Yeah,
Things move
Yeah, I'll
fast
make note
and
of
they end up not how we meant them.
yeah, I would imagine it would be difficult to get a wet spring in the drought package, though.
Yeah,
That makes sense. The smoke, maybe that might be a good addition. I think that is something that, you know, even if they weren't in that area that was experiencing fire, smoke was impacting people's markets. So anyways, just, yeah, not sure if that's helpful. But I wanted to offer that.
Thanks
So
for that feedback.
Yeah, that bill, I mean, after like our small farms meeting this morning about creating these modules on climate resilience, like the language, that you all are talking about, I was like, oh, this is, areas that we're looking at also. And then the last module, there's a section in there of like financial support during and after disasters. So I think just, we'll keep in touch and collaborate on those things. So Brittany, I might reach out to you. Just looking at some of the language that's in there.
Yeah, great.
Good questions. I have a question for you, Barrett. I was thinking about this after sharing your research call out to the network. What's the timeline for that information to be put out, and just would it have any help? Would it be helpful for informing, more information from producers on what they're experiencing on the ground as folks are developing these proposals during the legislative session? Just checking on your timeline.
Yeah. So when I was hired, the timeline that we were provided with was essentially the spring. So that's a little bit later than I think most people are going to want it. We are actively collecting data at the moment. So I think that right now we've completed about 28 interviews, which isn't a huge amount, but it's not tiny either. So, we do have the capacity to provide some insights. I would just say, because of the sample size, I would be a little bit cautious about using that data, but also it's informative, and we are already kind of getting thematic pieces coming out of it. So we're happy to share what we have as we have it, but we're not planning to have the full report until the spring.
Great, good to know. lots of good information. Any more questions, thoughts? And we could turn off the recording if someone wants that. It's out there. Otherwise, we'll yeah.
I do. Amy, can you can you share a little bit more about the, I think you have not used the word climate, the ag resilience funding, and can you share a little bit more about those grants and the purpose of those grants, and whether that is directly tied to the cost share or whether they would be additional and separate from the cost share?
So we're trying to, not say climate resilience as much, just for the same reasons that you've raised. And so we're saying that rebuilding resilience. And we have a lot of great data that shows that organic farms have better water infiltration and better soil health. And so right now we're focused mostly on the cost share program as well as the transition program and education. That's where we decided to land. We didn't want to make our asks too big. So we're working with Legislative Council right now on the drafting of that. It was pre-session filed, and now we're in our note to mother time with LC. So I'm happy to give you more specifics, but we're not trying, it sounds like, and Alice and I had chatted, I don't know, this week or last week about the drought program, and there's a lot of grant programs out there currently. So we weren't looking to go too big, but like all of you, we're wanting to create a good normalized pathway for supporting these farmers through state grant funds. And we're also trying to, I'd say, frame some of our asks in line with a lot of the work that's going to be going on with the 300 million to transition assistance that's going to be flowing into the region. 300 million isn't coming to the region. I think something more like 15 million is, but 300 million is coming from USDA to the US in, I think, 6 different regions. And so we're trying to also set up getting that in advance potentially. Like there's a good chance that cost share assistance will also be part of that program, but trying to get that going now. So yeah, does that help, Megan? I'm happy to keep, you're welcome to reach out at any time. But again, we don't have a final bill yet.
Yeah, I think that addresses my question. I was understanding it right. Yeah, it sounds like it is more focused. That bill is more focused on the LC draft right now, is more focused on the cost share and taking advantage of other existing resources to make sure that they basically leveraging federal money. Is that right?
I wouldn't per se say leveraging federal money. We have a lot of asks out there. And so we're trying to be realistic with what we're asking for. And so our ultimate vision is up here. And I think, that's like legislation. Your ultimate vision is here, and what you're going to get is right here. And so we're tailoring it as much as possible to things where there's already a program in place. It's going to be really easy to implement. ODA already handles the USDA cost share. And so just adding on a state match to that would be a really easy way to get more money in farmers' hands who are already practicing these type of practices. But expanding that out to transition assistance as well as some education around transition assistance.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, thanks. That's great. That makes sense.
Cool. Great. Good conversations. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate that. And engaging. I think that's that section. Just a brief update from me. So in the last couple of meetings, we have been working and trying to prioritize some more specific projects that we can engage in as a working group or a subgroup, and drill down on some of these issues, things all over, things like, let's see here, hosting and attending convenings to talk about regional climate change and ag issues, relationship mapping on who's working on ag and climate issues across the state, reviewing assessments for impacts, this policy stuff that we're talking about today. So then advocating for food systems to be included in natural disaster planning, That's all in the works. I haven't convened any of those folks who shared their interest in those specific topics, but plan to bring folks together and start moving some of those projects forward that we can report on as they move forward. So, and then I've just got these questions here. These are just things I'm constantly mulling over, you know, how to prepare for when NRCS really announces some more funding for climate resilience in the state. What can we do to get you know, ahead of the game for that? What I'm seeing, you know, I'm pretty new to USDA granting, and what I'm seeing from other efforts like the BFRDP and the land access for underserved communities is, you know, this is it's a big lift to get these grants, and if we want to be prepared. So just mulling those things over, but nothing more to report unless there's questions.
This is Megan. I could provide a resource there so I've been in a lot of meetings with ORCAN lately where NRCS, which is one of the federal agencies that is going to receive most of that IRA money for conservation programs, which are kind of the most directly related to our subcommittee here. I've been in meetings with NRCS staff like almost weekly for the last month or two, and they keep saying, we don't know anything. We don't know how much is going to come to, they have estimates for how much is going to come to each state. They don't know how it's going to be laid out. They'll hint or share little ideas, but I think what would be, there's not a whole lot that we can do to be prepared, except for using language in like legislation or positioning ourselves to be able just to say, we need to be ready to take advantage of federal money, like directing the agencies to be ready to take advantage, but there's nothing really they can do because we don't know how it'll roll out. And so I could offer that we have connections to some of those NRCS staff who know all of those programs, all the conservation programs, and will have information at some point about what's available. And so we could invite someone to join us or share out, maybe, or Ken will host some informational sessions or something, but we can help with that, getting that information to this group. So we keep raising that question, Andrew, then we'll know that when it's time. Just keep reminding me if you need to.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Obvious.
Maybe we can set that up for our next meeting. Cool. Big stuff. It's 4:40 on a Thursday evening. I'm sure y'all are tired, busy. I don't want to hold you any longer than we need to. Any last thoughts?
I think some of the next steps are for us for this group are to start to reach out to some of the folks who expressed interest in different projects. Or what do you see as next steps, Andrew, for our next?
Yeah, that's what it is reaching out to those folks, and I need to set up some more team meetings for those specific projects. And I think just making this a really engaging and fun space so we keep bringing people back and talking about important stuff. I'm going to be sharing, this is a question, I'd like to share what y'all were just talking about with Eric, with the policy working groups and his communications with those folks, sharing this information with them, if that's okay. So people can hear what y'all are talking about and try to get up to speed.
Yeah, I'd have a request, just maybe that not totally comfortable, and I should have just checked in with you about it beforehand. The natural working lands document that I walked us through,
yeah,
Bill isn't really ready for prime time, and so
we don't have to share
have that shared with Eric. Well, it's in the recording, just in terms of sharing out the recording. Just maybe I would prefer that not be like something that was in notes or something that went out to the entire network.
That's what I'm asking. That's fine.
But Tara, I've checked Tara's notes and she did a great job, and all of that is shareable. That's in the notes here. And then the recording is fine to share with Eric from my perspective.
Okay. I think that's good. That makes sense. yeah, this is something that I was thinking about as far as strategy with policy. You know, we have had a lot of people on our Farming for the Future working group list, and I shared out that matrix of bills, and then I realized it's like, oh, when folks are putting stuff on there, that's pretty much public. We don't have there's like 170 people on that list, so just keeping that out there, that to be discerning what you're sharing on those bases, those tools and stuff with the network.
Yeah.
Y'all
I'll
are,
I'll just add to that, Andrew, too. In the
Yeah.
past, Lauren has put like a disclaimer, I think, kind of private or, not shared widely, or I don't
Internal
know
for
what.
OCFSN or something.
Yeah, there has been some. You might want to check into Lauren with what kind of language she's used on that in the past, and perhaps put that on there if needed. Just an idea.
Yeah, I would love like internal to OCFSN
Yeah.
really members, but we can't really quite do that, at least participants.
Yes, we can do that. I'll bring that up to Lauren and make sure that that's put on that those materials. It's not just that matrix, there's other stuff out there too. So cool. Writing this down real quick to make sure we get that. But I think, yeah. And so our next meeting is in January. Megan and I will work on putting together the agenda for that. And then we have a gathering in February. Yeah, and that's the legislative session. It'll be full going. So, Megan and I will follow up with that January meeting, make sure that it fits with everyone's schedule and what their priorities are, because things will be hitting the ground running. Is there any Thousand Friends of Oregon reports on policy stuff, Greg?
Yeah, what I was going to say, we have this report, Death by a Thousand Cuts. It's been out for a couple of years now, that explores the erosion of the protections and land use planning program for exclusive farm use land. And we've been designing a legislative campaign around that, and in part because of staff shortages and in part because of lack of cooperation from some partners that are really necessary to move that type of legislation so far. We haven't gotten very far on those yet, but I'm looking at Megan mentioned the natural and working lands proposal. There's recommendations in there for tightening up protections for farm and forest land, and so we're pivoting a little bit to try to figure out how to sort of use that to move some of those priorities. But I don't think we're going to have a proactive legislative package around that this session. But having said that, we are going to start moving in the background a little bit, and I was going to say thank you to the folks that presented today. There's a number of these things that we're also either already involved in or will be involved in supporting. And reach out to me and we'll see what we can do. But some of you already know that we're behind some of these bills that you presented today, so thank you. We will be using our lobbying efforts to support. And of course, there's going to be some bills that come out. We're already getting wind of a few that are going to be trying to tear the protections down even further. So we will be defending against those.
Great. Awesome. It's unique to have someone from the conservation community here, Kaylin. If you have any comments, you're welcome to share.
Sure. Thanks, Andrew. Really exciting to be able to listen in today, and just appreciate this this opportunity. I'll share that the conservation groups that I work with in the water space, we are not bringing any of our own legislative concepts in the upcoming session. We have agreed to throw our support behind Water Resources Department's legislative concept related to what's called split season leasing. And that's something that I think is worth flagging for this group. It's a program that's been around for a couple decades now. It allows water users to use their water right, generally for irrigation for the first part of the season, and then protect it in stream for river benefit for the second part of the season. It's been on the books. It has a sunset. The sunset's been extended once, and the department's proposal would remove the sunset and also remove what's currently a 10-year cap on the number of times that a water right can be involved in the program. So we see this as fitting squarely within the realm of climate resilience, drought tools, using, water as smartly as possible. That maybe we hope, we're cautiously optimistic that this one's going to sail through. But assuming it doesn't, which is generally how things end up going, we might be, it could be helpful to keep up the coordination with you all, if that sounds like a program that you'd be interested in learning more about and potentially supporting. And then there's the perennial budget advocacy to try to keep programs intact and even expand them in many areas. We really want to see a water system that's a lot more science-based and adaptable and responsive. So if there's wherever there's POPs that we agree do that, we throw our support behind it.
Great policy option package. Cool. Thanks, y'all. Thanks for being here. We'll share this out with the network or with the subgroup and share the notes out, and we'll move from there.
I have a question for Kaylin.
Yeah.
Kaylin, would you consider that the bill you or the policy you're working on related to water rights, would you consider that water law reform? Or
sorry, I missed the word. What water reform?
Water law reform. Is it do you feel like it sounds to me like it's an important part of a piece of fixing some of the problems that, just so you know, OCFSN members have gathered and had many conversations about how that system is broken, and it seems like it's addressing some of those issues. Do you, and we could talk about what those issues are, and we will be talking next week, but do you feel like this is kind of reforming some problems, addressing some problems within existing water law, Misty?
Well, I wish I could say it went that far, Megan. I think all it's doing is keeping a good program in existence and preventing us from losing it.
Not the OWRD. I feel you were sharing before that about the bill related to, or the policy related to renewal of rights, right?
This was regarding, if I'm reading you correctly, the split season leasing. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's a program that's been on the books for a couple decades, and it just has a stupid sunset. And so we're trying to get rid of the stupid sunset.
I see. Okay.
And that's a technical term, stupid sunset.
Yeah, got it.
But I would say that it does seem that there's a lot of interest in voluntary tools that water users can take advantage of. And this is one of those voluntary tools. If we lose those, then you're losing a carrot, and kind of all that you're left behind with when the times get tough is sticks. So we would really like to be able to preserve options for water users.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, I think this is why I was really interested when Kaylin reached out and was interested in learning about this work and the Community Food Systems Network. And there's, like we've heard from a lot of people at these gatherings, and it's obvious the water law and water rights system is not working for a lot of people. And talking to conservation colleagues and folks about what their priorities are and what they're working towards can only help inform the issues that we're working towards and least have a conversation and broaden a base on trying to make a more just water system. So that was interesting for me, and I'm glad that you've been engaged, Kaylin. So thank you for doing that. And yeah,
Thanks, Andrew.
cool. Well, have a wonderful evening, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for being patient. It's been a weird day, so I appreciate you letting me call in
Thanks for
and
joining.
disrupt the meeting.
Thank
Bye.
you, Brittany.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.